What's up, Unruffled listeners and Unruffled watchers? My name is Fridge. I am your host for the Unruffled podcast. Today, we're going to be talking all about Mariachi Maestro. This is a super delicious IPA that we just made with Norwalk BrewHouse and SLO Brew out of San Luis Obispo. And we're going to be joined by Ricky Rivera out of Norwalk BrewHouse, talking all about the late, great Gabriel Zavala, who inspired this beer and was a well-known educator in Southern California teaching music. He unfortunately passed away due to the coronavirus earlier this year. And we're going to be talking all about him and his legacy, as well as the importance of Latino representation in the craft beer community, how much beer and music have in common, and a host of other awesome categories. I hope you all enjoy the episode. Without further ado, let's go. Cheers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to HenHouse Unruffled with Ray Rivera of Norwalk BrewHouse talking about Mariachi Maestro. Let's crack open some beers. Did you bring a beer, Bob?
I brought the can, an empty can.
Oh man, that's okay. No one needs to know that. Honestly, you can just drink from the empty can. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there were some fake sips on that Instagram show for sure. When I was on IG,
Man, I am very, very pleased with this beer.
Ooh. I was just going to say, I don't typically drink beer in my kids' room, so.
Awesome. Well, why don't we introduce ourselves? I'll start. My name is Fridge. I'm a marketing coordinator here at HenHouse Brewing Company and the host of Unruffled podcast, the HenHouse podcast. And this is one of the first times we've had a video aspect to the Unruffled podcast. So we're really excited to do this, and we appreciate your time, Ray. Thanks for coming out. Bob, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I am Bob. I'm also one of the marketeers at HenHouse Brewing Company.
And then Ray, what do you?
I'm Sayre. I'm the sales department and marketing department manager here at HenHouse. Coming to you live from the marketing office.
And Ray, you want to introduce yourself to the lovely folks?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Ricky Rivera from Norwalk BrewHouse in Southern California.
Nice. So I'm curious, how long has Norwalk BrewHouse been around, man? What's the story with that?
Yeah. Just to let everybody know, we are not a physical production brewery. Norwalk BrewHouse right now is a contract brewed brand. I was just telling Sayre, we've just applied for our wholesaler permit with the state of California. So we're actually in the process of bringing beer to market. So like this collab with HenHouse, I've done with the Norwalk BrewHouse brand, I've done several, and that's kind of been our thing as we get ready to bring our own beer to market. So we're not actually a physical brewery yet. That's going to be sometime down the line. But we've been around. I've been like building the brand for a couple years now, but seriously, like doing these beer collaborations probably within the last 6 months or so. Like seriously focused on growing the business.
That's awesome. Man. That's awesome.
What are some of those other collaborations? I know you guys had one with Sumex.
Yeah, actually, got the can right here. This was, let me see, get in the camera. There we go. I'm like, it's flipped around.
Yeah,
it's back.
There we go. So
it's like flying, down to go up to go down.
It's like trying to give myself a haircut with a mirror,
Right.
Exactly.
So this beer was called Love Fights Back. It's a guava mango blonde ale that I did with Eagle Rock, with the great people over there, Jeremy and Ting of Eagle Rock Brewing, and rapper Tumex, who's kind of like a he's basically like a local legend in Los Angeles. I'm a big hip hop fan. I have a background in music. So as a teenager, I found myself going to a lot of hip hop shows, sneaking in shows, sneaking in devices to record shows. And I just happened to be a big 2Mex fan. And at some point, I realized that we had tons of mutual friends. So I had the opportunity later on to book 2Mex for a live show with an artist that I was working with. And so I had that connection with him. This project came about, Love Fights Back, with Eagle Rock Brewery. And the name Love Fights Back is actually a 2Mex song, which is actually, this beer is what kind of led to me working with you guys, because HenHouse distributes Eagle Rock up north, I believe. And I think you guys put this beer out for us. And Colin reached out to me and was like, "Hey, that beer's really cool. I dig that collab you guys put together." And then the conversation started. And so, yeah, that's one of the collaborations that I've done.
That's awesome. Yeah, the folks down at Eagle Rock are incredible. They
it was, that label looked like Eagle Rock, and I was like, wow, that looks like an Eagle Rock label. And they're like, yeah, I made that with Eagle. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I'm old enough that the 2Mex logo moves me as well. I was trying to, managing the sales team. They're all like late 20s, early 30s. And I was like, you guys, you don't understand. Like, you get to sell beer that involves 2Mex. I think we had like one member of the team that was excited about it, but
yeah, 2Mex is, he's kind of one of those artists. He's still relatively unknown to like the masses, but if you're into hip hop and you dig deep and you've been around for a while, then you're probably familiar with somebody like 2Mex. But in LA, like, he has a really strong following. Like I said, he's kind of like a local legend to us hip hop heads in Los Angeles. That's one thing that I really like about you guys at HenHouse is you guys all seem like you love hip hop. There's like a lot of hip hop heads over there.
Well, Sayre is our marketing manager, so that certainly helps.
No, but what I will say, because honestly, like, yeah, my background was in hip hop, but Josh, who's our art director and like responsible for like every visual expression of HenHouse that you've probably seen, much more of like a rock and folk background, but he's still a touring musician and active musician. Bob, who's responsible for probably almost everything you've seen, any written expression from HenHouse, much more like punk, kind of in his cultural jumping off point. But I think the one thing I do note is like how many people who are doing dope shit in either the craft beer space or even in the bar and restaurant space are just deeply, deeply connected to some musical subculture in some way. Like, I think there's it just seems as though there's something analogous about the kind of work and what makes people excited about being adjacent to this industry as what made people being excited about being around music. I don't know if you feel the same way, but for me, that seems really has rung true in my career.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, to add to that, so when I first reached out to 2Mex, it actually wasn't for this Eagle Rock collab. We had been talking previously. I just had this idea, like, his name is 2Mex. Everybody seems to enjoy Mexican lagers. I was like, there needs to be a 2 Mexican lager out there. I was like,
yeah,
maybe I should do that. So he and I had a conversation with around that idea, and he was like, well, I've already done a couple of beers. And I was like, really? I had no idea. He did 2 releases with Mumford Brewing in Los Angeles. So Mumford Brewing, if I don't know if you guys know or not, but it was started by brothers. Todd Mumford is a hip hop producer, and he used to be in a hip hop.
Wow.
Yeah, Mum's the word. Yeah, he used to be in a hip hop group with 2Mex, and so they have actually collaborated before. And that just blew my mind, because as being a longtime 2Mex fan, I didn't even know that they did those beers. So with that, it made more sense. But yeah, to your point, Sayre, like, you got these hip hop guys open up a brewery, and there's a lot of crossover there with music and craft beer.
Yeah, the Venn diagram certainly crosses over strong with the folks that love music and the folks that love craft beer. Um, often
Why do
you'll
y'all think that is?
I guess, I mean, I've heard like us talk about beer being a form of entertainment, and we kind of see that as, part of our brand, and our stories. Like, we are trying to make beers that are going to entertain you and your friends for the evening, pulling out a 4-pack, looking at the amazing artwork that is now pretty standard for most craft beers out there these days, and just get to hang with your friends and live the story, and also talk about whatever the the reference is that is inevitably also going to be there, in the on the label of the beer. There's so many like pop culture references, and whether it's music or comic books or movies. I mean, it just seems like beer has a toe into the entertainment world, if you know what I mean.
Totally. And I think it's the passion too. Like craft beer to me was really easily sold as like many years ago when there was so much of an us versus them kind of mentality in craft beer. I was like, oh, like we hate the sellouts. Cool. I understand how that works. And I can jump right in with this. And you see like it's local folks doing their own thing. And you can, when I go to shows pre-pandemic, the bands I'm going to see, those folks are also standing in the crowd. And like a local beer producer is also the person you're going to bump into at Safeway. And that, I think, for me, that connection really spoke to me and really got me in. And then the more I learned about beer and the beer world and the industry, about how craft beer folks are cool, like the way we all kind of share employees throughout the industry. It's like that with bands. You're like, did you know that so-and-so actually like 20 years ago, they were brewing at Anderson Valley and like now they run this cool brewery over here. And it's just like hearing like, oh, that was the producer who worked on that album and now he's making this great album. Or that was the drummer for that one band I liked and now she's doing a different project over here. I'll go check that out. It all flows like that. And music and beer do go really well together. They pair beautifully.
Yeah, it's like definitely a strong sense of community in the music industry, especially up here in Sonoma County. And I mean, over the last 8 years of me working in the beer industry, I'd say the same thing. I mean, there's a really strong sense of community. I do recall like people being like, oh yeah, fuck the big guys, screw those sellouts, like certain brewery used to be cool before they sold to AB. Now we can't buy that stuff anymore. But, the local small independent companies, they were like neighbors. They're, first to be able to like, hey, I don't have this hop or I don't have this ingredient. Maybe I could go hit up my friends over here at Cellar Maker and see if we can get that hop for a beer that we want to produce, or even just the collaborations that we do. It's really representative of like a family or a community.
Yeah, totally. And I think somebody asked me this recently, and I was thinking to my time as a home brewer, and previous to that, being in a band, writing music, just having this creative outlet via music. I could see myself doing that through home brewing, where you're developing recipes. And then, you're in a band, you write songs, you're proud of these songs, you want to go out and share them with the world. Same thing when you're brewing beer, right? You had this crazy idea to throw mango and guava in a saison, and it worked. And you're like, holy shit, this is cool. I want to share it with people. I want to get out there and, pour for my friends. So I think in that regard, there's a lot of, it works. Like, if you're into music, you're into craft beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the artistic process of writing a song versus, creating a recipe for a beer. It's almost like writing a song. And then, taking the metaphor even further, when you're like a really small craft brewery and you're just like a group of people, you got to work well together. It's the same thing when you're in a band. You want to have a strong relationship and connection with your bandmates. If you work together, you want to like each other. And I feel like that goes across a lot of different things. Like I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I feel the same thing. Like being in a D&D group is like being in a band. You know, you
Yeah.
can't roll together, roll those polyhedrals, then you're not going to be able to rock and roll either.
Ray,
I
when you
have
were
no
talking
idea
about,
what you just said.
Oh man, that's okay. That's all right.
Also, who had 8 minutes and however many seconds into the podcast for our first D&D reference from Fridge?
Oh well, you know, there's always got to be one. There's got to be one. You know,
Yeah.
keep my D20.
Ding.
I got that thing on me. You know. But I'd love to talk a little bit more about the beer, the Mariachi Maestro, and why you wanted to make this beer, Ray. Like we wanted to work with you and make a beer, but why did you want to make this beer? And I mean, we all know that this is a tribute to Mr. Zavala, but what was your
Right.
connection to him, and you know what's the story there?
You know, one day, this is a story. One day I was on Twitter, somebody shared an article by the LA Times, and it had a picture of Gabriel Zavala, and I clicked on this article, I read through this thing, and I was like, how come I don't know about this guy? And basically he had passed away suddenly from COVID, sadly, really. And he had this school where he taught for decades, thousands of kids, of students, and he was like super dedicated. He was one of the first musicians in Orange County to bring mariachi to the area back in the 60s. And I was just really impressed, but I was really surprised that I had never heard of the school. I wasn't familiar with the teacher, and I have a ton of friends that work in the genre. And really, I was just sad. I was like, man, this is really sad. This guy's passed away. His school is struggling. When I was a kid, I studied for a few years at a local nonprofit music school. And I just knew how important that experience was for me. And so I know for many other kids, these spaces are really important. You know, you go there, you learn something cool, you have this new skill. Who knows, you might go on to have a career, you know, feed your family and whatnot, or just have this outlet. So I was like, this school is special. It's important. This man is special. Somebody should help out. And then shortly after that, I was just kind of poking around on Facebook, and I was like, let me see if any of my friends know this teacher. And I was like, hey, anybody know this man who passed away? And sure enough, 5 of my friends, yeah, I studied with him when I was a kid. Yeah, my cousin studied with him. Oh, he's my neighbor. Oh, my aunt knows his son. Like all of these connections. I'm like, holy shit. So then I just felt moved to like, I got to try and do something. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm in beer now. Part of my business plan and business goals are to give back by way of beer, however that is, through these collaborations or however I can. So I just felt like this was a way to do that. And it just so happens that Colin and I had a conversation right around the time that my friend Mo Duran, who was over at SLO, he was like the head of sales there. So Mo Duran and I, our kids went to the same school. So Mo's actually from Norwalk as well. And I met Mo several years back. And it's funny because Mo was following my homebrew club on Instagram. This is prior to me like actually getting into the commercial space. So Mo's following my homebrew club on Instagram. One day I run into Mo at school, and he was working at some other beer company local to Norwalk. And we have this conversation, and the homebrew club, SoCal Cerveceros, comes up in conversation. And he tells me about this homebrew club. And I'm like, dude, I'm actually the president of that club. And he was like, what? And so we became fast friends right after that. So fast forward to more recently, Mo and I had been talking about, man, we should try and do something together, like SLO Brew, Norwalk BrewHouse, if that's a possibility. So all this was happening at the same time. I have a conversation with Colin. I read this article. I'm like, well, HenHouse, SLO, and Norwalk, why don't we try to do this together? And I pitched the idea, and you guys were all about it. And that's kind of how it came together.
That's awesome.
That's wild. So I think one important piece to include in that discussion, I didn't know until just this minute that you actually didn't have a personal relationship with the Zavala family or that school. And I think this is something we've noticed. So we've been, Colin made the determination more than a year ago that like one of the biggest things we can do to be, an actively anti-racist company, given that we are a company, like any corporation is a company, just a machine that makes money, right? But we can put some of that money in. We can be intentional about which pockets some of that money goes in, and we can use our platform to kind of direct attention at certain things. So I think the first sort of real success in that regard was we took the Black is Beautiful that Crowns and Hops was set to make, and they were going to make it in a 15 barrel scale. We brewed it up here at a 60 barrel scale, and that took the donation that they were able to make to the two different charities from, probably something in the low 4 figures to 2 different 5-figure donations. And that was something we could do, without really imposing on ourselves too much. And so Colin's been looking for those opportunities again. But I think our intention in reaching out to you, Ray, was, you are still in the process of getting off the ground, and opening a brewery is so capital intensive,
Right.
So stressful, so much regulatory mess you got to go through. I know Colin was really struck by the fact that he was like, look, man, I'm trying to put money in your pocket. I'm trying to help out Norwalk BrewHouse. And your instinct was to kind of immediately deflect and see where you could share this, little bit of access that we were able to share with you with somebody else, and somebody who was in, in a kind of a tragic situation at the time. And that's like so incredibly laudable. And also something that we've seen more than once now with trying to reach out to POC owned companies in this industry and do what we can to help, put them on more solid footing. And almost every time we make that offer or we make that overture, it's greeted with like, oh, but yeah, can we also make this donation here? Like I can say we have a project coming up with Helicoastal, who's trying to be the first Black owned brewery in Oakland. And the artwork on that label makes reference to kind of like a black cowboy. And they were like, oh, can we maybe send some of the proceeds to the Oakland Black Cowboy Association? And it's like, y'all are trying to do stuff that is going to take millions of dollars.
Right.
Like not like no joke, right? Like if you're trying to open a brick and mortar brewery, we're talking about 7 figures, not 6 probably. And it is just so striking and impressive that your instinct around this was to be like, but like, how do I help my community with this too? Right. And probably even how do I help my community with this primarily? Right. And so I do hope that people hear that and people are, that is made clear to folks. Like this was not, this doesn't happen this way, but for you. This could have been a like, hey, everybody needs to be on Norwalk BrewHouse. Pay attention to Norwalk BrewHouse. Like, here's this, I think we sent probably close to 20 barrels of this into your market. Get on this HenHouse Norwalk BrewHouse stuff. And you were like, no, let's bring in my buddy who's part of my community who works with slow brewing, and let's highlight this, like the legacy of this amazing man, and make sure the school stays open. And that's just like,
that's dope.
It seems like a very natural impulse on your part, but that is really, really, really impressive. And I thank you for including us in it.
Man, it really makes me, and I'm sure a lot of people like want to come and drink your beer when that is an opportunity to be had.
Yeah, well,
doing it right now, bro.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we are doing it right now.
Well, this collab really wouldn't exist without you guys. I have been a fan of HenHouse. I was watching when Crowns and Hops started contract brewing with you guys. And I thought it was great because I see the work that HenHouse is doing. For one, you guys are nuts. You guys put out like a new beer every week. Like it's crazy. And so,
it's
down here, I'm like, yeah, you guys are working really hard, but I definitely noticed your support of people of color. And, instead of talking about it, you guys are actually putting in the work and being about it. So thank you guys for that. So when Colin reached out to me via Twitter, I was kind of blown away because we had no previous connection other than the Eagle Rock collaboration that you guys distributed, but nobody had really introduced us. I think Jeremy maybe had mentioned that he was going to connect us at some point, but it hadn't happened yet. So Colin reached out and said hello, and yeah, like you said, he was like, HenHouse wants to help. I know. Well, he actually asked me, where are you at in your process? What are you trying to do? And so I told him, like, I would love to own a brewery, actually a brew pub in my city of Norwalk, but I just don't have the capital. So my second option is to come to market via contract brewing. That seems more feasible for me in this moment, And he said, whatever I can do to help, HenHouse is here. We got your back. Let me know. And really, he answered a ton of questions for me. He gave me some really good tips, and I was just like so thankful for that, just for that time, for somebody who's been in the industry so long, just to share that knowledge with me. And then here we are talking about this collaboration. So yeah, thank you guys for offering that platform, that assistance, that help, that knowledge. I'm really grateful for it. And it's interesting because I've done, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of these collabs. Well, let me back up. Every single collab that I've done under the Norwalk BrewHouse brand has been a collaboration to help a nonprofit. So everything we've done so far has been to raise funds for something that we feel is important.
Which is
friends
awesome.
and family they're always asking me, like, dude, I see you doing all these things. You're running press, you're running marketing. Like, how much are you getting paid? Are you getting paid? And I'm like, getting paid? And we're not getting any money. It's cool that the name gets out there. We get more exposure. Like that's pretty much the degree to which Norwalk benefits. But in terms of like getting a check or anything, like, nah, that's not what these collaborations are for. At least that's in my opinion. But other people are like, you should be getting something because you're doing work. But I don't really. I don't know. In my mind, I guess it's kind of hard for me to wrap my head around raising money for a nonprofit or for some kind of social cause, but still taking a cut. Like, especially
yeah.
if I'm not the commercial brewery that's actually brewing the product. So yeah, it's
well, I mean, if I can respond to that, man, there are values driven reasons that HenHouse has these kind of anti-racist initiatives and reaches out to somebody like you. It's also absolutely good practical business for anybody in the craft beer industry right now to find folks like you, folks like Tio and Benny, who can speak much more directly and impactfully with, just to use the language of the market, consumers that we can't. Like,
right.
Our brewery is in Roseland, and which is probably no question the most Hispanic part of the city of Santa Rosa, and maybe 20% of our employees are bilingual. And that's to say nothing of the cultural fluency. So I do think that any brewery like us, or even bigger breweries, or entities within craft beer, entities like the BA that aren't identifying figures like yourself and being like, these are the ambassadors we need. Even if the intent is purely capitalist, like, you do have something of tremendous value that this industry absolutely needs to be, foregrounding more, and amplifying more.
Yeah. I mean, beer is for everyone, and everyone should be represented, so in that breath, I hope that you make money and get your brewery open so I can come and support you.
Me too.
Yeah.
So start, cashing those checks, Ray.
Yeah, the money, just real quick, the money part, I'm not really worried about. The idea of making money. Again, I come from music, so as a teenager, I joined my first band, and we learned by doing. We had no money, we didn't know what we were doing, and then gradually through the process of doing, we learned how to write songs, we learned how to produce, we found ourselves with management, touring the country, and then eventually I was able to tour around the world with music, and then getting placements in TV and film. So, like, I'm at that stage where, like, I don't know how to write the song yet, but I'm practicing at it. and I've
Yeah.
got collaborators, and I've got people telling me, well, this is how I do it. This is how you might want to do it. And so I'm doing now. So I think by doing good work and by having solid values and just being, I guess, not selfish, so to speak, I think all the good will come, the money will come, and eventually we'll be there and we'll have beer in the market, and we can start to generate revenue as a legit company. Sorry, Bob, you were gonna chime in there.
No, please. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, how like music is all of this. Like when a community needs something, like boom, there's a benefit show, and like boom, there's a benefit album. Like that's so all this stuff that craft beer does, because collab beers and beers that raise money for folks are such a big part of craft beer, and something I enjoy so much about this industry. Just tying that right back to music, like when people are in a pinch, anything from like the Beatles doing like like music for Bangladesh to like some local band you've never heard of trying to raise some money for a cause you don't know about somewhere. Like someone in Ohio is trying to play some songs to raise some money for something right now. I'm sure of it. And I love that connection. And before we run out of time, like Ray, I would love to hear more about SoCal Cerveceros, because I know there's a lot of SoCal Cerveceros living NorCal who are part of HenHouse, who are big fans, and I would just love to know more about this whole group. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So in 2014, I started homebrewing. I didn't know anybody that was a home brewer, nobody in my family. Like I just kind of stumbled upon it. I had been thinking about it for a while because I started getting into beer. And really the idea was, I had this idea. So in Norwalk, so I'm actually from Boyle Heights, which is a neighborhood in East Los Angeles. It's all Mexican, American, Latino. Um, Met my wife. She was in Norwalk, so I moved to Norwalk in 2009. By that time, I had already kind of transitioned out of being a performer and more of running my own record label and managing other bands and doing shows and that kind of thing. And I realized that there was no local venues to book live music. So the wheel started turning. I was like, well, maybe I can be the one to create a venue and start booking the talent that I work with. I could do my own shows and build that local scene.
Yeah.
There was nowhere for live bands. So that's where it started. And then as I was kicking ideas back and forth with my wife, I was like, oh, maybe we can do a bar and grill, and we could have, California craft on tap, and that'll be our thing. Like we only offer beer made in California. And so I was like, well, if I'm serious about getting into this business, I should probably know how beer is made. I don't know why I was thinking like I need to know how beer is made. So I started to do research, and then I was like, oh, I should probably homebrew. And then I picked up that book by Sam Calagione, brewing up a business.
Brewing up a business. Yeah.
And after I read that, I was just like, whoa, this dude was in college. He did a homebrew recipe, and then he went and started Dogfish Head. Like, that's dope. And I didn't know anybody, and I started going to homebrew shops. And anytime I was in the homebrew shop, literally I was the only brown dude there for miles. Everybody was cool in the homebrew shops, but it was just, I was mainly running into a bunch of white dudes. And I was just thinking like, there's gotta be other people like me who are into homebrewing. I just don't know who they are. Like, how do I find them? So I took to Facebook. I was like, hey, anybody here homebrew? Somebody chimed in who I didn't even know. We were friends on Facebook. He and I hooked up. We had a meeting. Turns out he was homebrewing for 5 years. He had a little group, and we had this conversation about going into homebrew shops and looking at other homebrew clubs and realizing there are very little people of color in these spaces. And that sparked the idea to start SoCal Cerveceros. And so we did, and we had 7 people back in 2015, like spring 2015, seven dudes in a garage talking about homebrew. Again, I was really new to homebrew at this point. I had like a couple 1-gallon batches done on my stovetop. But these guys, like, they were already doing full, like, boil 10-gallon all grain batches. So they knew their stuff. So I was really impressed. They had really good homebrew. And from there, word started to spread, and we started gaining more interest just through us sharing this homebrew club with our friends and friends of friends and so on and so forth. And we kept hearing the same story. Oh man, every time I go to a homebrew club, there's a bunch of older white guys and I feel like I don't belong or I feel out of place. And so I kept hearing this over and over. Little by little, like we started to grow. And then around 2016, 2017, we had our first event in a backyard and we pulled like 200 people, 150 people maybe. We had a band, we had DJs, we were serving like 6 beers, totally underground party, no permit, nothing like that. It was totally illegal.
Yeah.
It was just like a backyard. It was almost like a punk show, like backyard. We had like 2 PA speakers. The band was rocking out. We had somebody making tacos and burritos, and we had beer. And it was just this really cool like kickback, but from the homebrew club. And so then we were like, wait, people are really into this. We got to keep doing this. And little by little, we started to grow, and we started to gain members that were serious about the craft. And now today we're over 250 members. We produce a beer fest called Cold Chela. Chela slang for beer for those who don't know. So it's literally Cold Beer Festival. And we feature over 50 brewers, all from the homebrew club. We have several bands that play, DJs, food vendors. It's kind of like a typical craft beer festival, just that when you come here, it's super diverse. There's probably equal number of women to men, but you're seeing Latinos, you're seeing Asian folks, you're seeing Black folks. It's really diverse. So down here, that's a big thing. Like that festival, it's 2 years in, and then we got shut down in 2020. 2018, when we launched it, we were 20 homebrewers pouring, and 400 people came out. The next year, we were 52 homebrewers pouring, and 1,500 people came out, and we sold it.
Yes.
So 2020, we were literally looking at like between 3,000 and 5,000 turnout, with about 75 brewers pouring, but we got shut down because of the pandemic. Obviously, everybody was shut down. So that's the gist of SoCal Cerveceros. We're known as the largest quote unquote Latino based homebrew club in the country, but really we've grown beyond just being a Latinx or Latino club. We have non-Latino members. We have several Asian members. We have several African American members. We do have white members. So we're pretty diverse now. And what's really great is what we're seeing now is our members are actually moving into the commercial space. So we have, I believe we're up to like 4 commercial breweries now that 2 have opened and 2 are in the middle of their build out right now. And then you have me launching Norwalk BrewHouse, but doubling as a wholesaler. So we're creating kind of like this ecosystem of small businesses. So as more members come to market, then that's going to give me a chance to distribute their product as well. So we're kind of collaborating. We also have members now that are like managing brew houses, that are in marketing, just various roles within the industry. So we've become this sort of a gateway or platform, if you will, for members to make their way, to find their way into the industry. And to me, that's like the coolest thing that I've seen so far with this club.
That's rad.
That's who we are.
That's incredible, man. That's infrastructure. You got a constituency, man. That's like, that's like, first of all, that festival sounds like hella fun. And
Coachella is such a good name.
Yeah,
that is
it's a great name.
That's awesome.
You said 2 things. I want to get this in though, too, because I wasn't bullshitting when I said like, this is in our interest to work with folks like you. So when you said, as soon as you mentioned Boyle Heights, I thought of Carissa.
Yes, the homie.
And she has a bar. She's got a bar down there called
Got
Chella's.
2.
Right.
Chella's,
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know how nice I'm allowed to be about, although I don't know that there are accounts, so maybe I can't be nice. My experience in Chella's was like mind blowing for the, like, cause for me, like, basically a white dude, but like just generally my cultural tastes haven't been where you can go party and drink really great beer until really recently, So like when my career in beer started, I kind of have to make a decision. Did I want to go to a place where I might hear the music I like, might see some other things that I'm into, or the place where I can drink the beer I want to drink. And thankfully, like that's kind of going away. But I still hadn't experienced anything like my first night at Chella's, where like I heard like sugar free with like 30 people dancing on a dance floor while I'm drinking brewery fresh IPA made from like right around the way. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is what I've wanted. And so when we started selling a little bit of beer in LA, her properties were on the list of places that I had as like targets. And I'm pretty sure we haven't been able to sell into them, any of them at all. And then we do this collab with you, and I see her in the comments like, oh, I'm going to need that. Right. So like this for real does open doors for our brand. And, you know, I'll be arrogant enough to say you put HenHouse on once, you're going to put HenHouse on again. Right. But like we couldn't get that door open without you. And so there really is like material benefit for a company like ours connecting with folks like you.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you make. Because if you're not from here, how do you get here? How do you penetrate this area? Yeah, you know, so anybody listening, you got to go through me, all right? No, but
right.
to
Raise the gate.
to speak on Carissa, to speak on Carissa and her husband Gabe, they're actually business partners. They're really, really great people. They're all about helping others as well. They've been really great with me. Like if you have a question, like, okay, if you're somebody who's interested in owning a bar business and you approach Carissa and Gabe, they're going to be willing to help you, to share whatever they know, and they're really great about that. And that's why I really love them. They have really good ideas. They're just genuinely solid people. And Carissa especially, yeah, she's from Boyle Heights like I am, so we have that connection. And that's one thing about people from Boyle Heights. Like anybody in Boyle Heights trying to do something, whether it be in the beer industry, in the music industry, and there's a lot of people in Boyle Heights that are trying to make moves in the music industry. So Boyle Heights is really closely related to East LA. Some people think they're the same place. They're technically not the same if you look at the city map. But if you're from Boyle Heights, you're from East LA, and East LA has a deep history of music. It's deep and long, and there's a lot of people around that have gone to do great things in music. So it's a very like creative place. There's a lot of really good people there. Man, I could. I'm a Boyle Heights promoter all day, every day. But
Right.
I'm happy to hear
Absolutely.
that you've connected with. Are you guys in Chella's? Did you get in yet?
I have to go like distributor layers. So I gotta follow up with Guardian to see where that beer ended up getting placed. And I know I need to get into that for you and your folks too soon. So that call's coming. But I was just thrilled to see that, you know, and like not surprised. You know what I mean? Like like anybody who's buying beer right now, they got 200 different brands hollering at them, right? And so like, why should I pay attention to this one? Why should I pay attention to that one? Like, why is this one relevant to me? Right. And so in that one specific instance, and I'm sure others, like you provided that relevance for us. So I think like, you know, if for other brands out there, like I do really want to, like, I think this is stuff that, you know, there's just some like kind of necessary cultural reciprocity, particularly when you look at where breweries tend to set up shop. You know, it's not in the super affluent, entirely white neighborhoods. It's in like post-industrial kind of like first wave gentrifying type neighborhoods is where breweries tend to set up shop. But it's also just blatantly in our interest. And I think that's the point that I really hope, like that's what I try to scream whenever I can get a platform to discuss things like this, is like, yo, like you can say everybody's welcome, but that's not the same as everybody giving a shit about you.
That's true.
Like, and that's not the same as you being relevant to every single potential customer segment. And so that's where I hope one of the many great things that we get out of doing collaborations like this with folks like you. I know we're pressed for time. I do want to give you a shot to give all the appropriate ats. So if people want to get down with this movement, if people themselves want to find a way to be relevant in the SoCal beer world, how do they connect with Ray, Ricky, Rivera, Norwalk BrewHouse, SoCal Cerveceros, all that stuff?
Sure. So on Instagram at Norwalk BrewHouse, or you can follow me at Ray Ricky Rivera. Got to use the full name. I always use my full birth name. And at SoCal Cerveceros. The last time I tried to spell that on a podcast, I stumbled, but it's SoCal.
We can put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Cerveceros. Yeah, there you go. And it's the same across all social media. Twitter is actually Norwalk Brew because house is too long. So, or Ray Ricky Rivera. So Ray Ricky Rivera, if you follow me, it'll lead you to Norwalk BrewHouse and vice versa. And SoCal Cerveceros as well. So
nice. When we post up this podcast, I'll be sure to do all the appropriate ads and tagging.
Yes, please, because I'm getting ready to launch my first crowdfunding campaign. Need a little bit more cash to help me get over the hump as we get our license from the state of California. So that's coming up soon. So yes, please do follow me. Got some great things coming up.
You heard it here, Unruffled listeners. Follow our man Ray Ricky Rivera and help expand the beer to the people. Let's get this out into the Latino culture. Let's get this out into the Black culture. Let's get this out into a shared culture of delicious craft beer. I love working in this industry. I love this podcast. I love all you amazing people. Cheers.
All right.
Hey, thank you guys again. Thank you, HenHouse, for all that you do, all that you've been doing. Like I said, I've been a fan, so to be able to put this collaboration together and help some people out, it's kind of mind-blowing to me. I'm super grateful. Thank you guys, all of you, Fridge, Bob, Sayre, Colin, the whole HenHouse crew. Thank you guys so much.
Dude,
our pleasure, man.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
the pleasure is all ours, man. Thank you so much.
Also, quick shout out to 80s fashion icon Kathy Ireland. We wouldn't be here without you.
Wait, what?
Wait, I don't get it.
Co-founder of SLO Brewing Company. Not currently still involved.
Oh, yes.
Co-founder.
I read that. I read that somewhere.
What?
So did I.
What?
Bob coming in with
all
those
the
deep
80s
cuts.
supermodels to start an amazing long-lived brewery. She is definitely one of those.
That's
possibly
amazing.
the one.
Yo, can we get her on the podcast, Rich?
Yeah, I'm gonna send an email right after we're done here for sure.
Wow,
that'd be the first time I sent any kind of digital message to a supermodel, though. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
At least on company time.
Yeah, exactly. She's out of the game. She doesn't brew anymore. But she did.
Hey, Ray, do you know Izzy from Craftsman?
Yeah, he's one of the SoCal Cerveceros members. Yeah, Izzy.
Okay, cool. Because he's also like a decorated Maltose Falcon.
Dude, he's like the most winningest home brewer around. Yeah, that dude's a beast. Yeah, he's over at Craftsman Brewing Company.
Yeah.
Are you guys familiar?
That's my favorite brewery in the world. So I'm a huge fan of his. But they did a Baltic Porter when he was. It was like Eagle Rock Maltose Falcons co-branded Baltic Porter that was like absolutely world class. It was really, really outstanding.
Nice.
Yeah, Izzy's cool, man. I really love Izzy. Good guy.
Well, once again, Ray, Ricky Rivera, thank you so much for coming on the Unruffled podcast. This has been a lot of fun talking with all of you wonderful gentlemen. Cheers. And cheers to Mr. Zavala.
Cheers.
You know?
Indeed.
Yeah. Cheers.
What's up, Unruffled listeners? Sayre here, getting ready to talk to Blanca Molina, the artist behind the Mariachi Maestro IPA label, as well as a bunch of other super special HenHouse releases. Blanca is a essential creative force here in the Roseland and Santa Rosa community, and we couldn't be more stoked to be talking to her today.
So for this one, I definitely had a lot of fun with it. I got to play with like roses, colors, like all kinds of different like typography, and just be like super like fluorescent and like add like a lot of embellishments. So this was like totally like my favorite like label to play with. So,
awesome. So we are recording, and the voice you are listening to is that of Blanca Molina, the artist behind a number of our labels here at HenHouse, but most relevant to our current discussion, the just released Mariachi Maestro. the main figure on the Mariachi Maestro label is indeed a mariachi. Did you, is that an image you had before? Is that an image of a specific person? Did you take an image of Gabriel Zavala, or where did that guy come from?
Yeah, so I when I was exploring like mariachi like singers and all that stuff, I did have a picture of Gabriel Zavala, but I wanted like the picture was a little like black and white, like I couldn't really see like a lot of details in like his outfit. So I did like search other mariachis, like all the embellishments, and kind of like practiced basically designing like a suit, a mariachi suit. And I just kind of applied it to Gabriel Zavala and just kind of made it more impactful on the label.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have any like history or experience around mariachi, or any like feeling towards it prior to digging into this project?
No, I love the music. I love mariachi music. Like it's my favorite. Like when it comes to like Mexican music, because there's other kinds of music that are definitely more popular right now, but mariachi is like the traditional music for our culture. So that's, I don't know, it was just amazing to do this label.
Right. And you say our culture, where are your people, where in Mexico are your people from, or what's your
I'm from
background?
Jalisco, Mexico. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Guadalajara area.
And you were from there originally?
Yeah. Well, I was born over there, and then I moved here when I was 5 years old. So yeah, but I feel like I've always kind of watched out for the colors and culture and art of Mexico, just to feel more connected to it. So this was basically one of the biggest things I could do, like that showed how much I love this culture, or my culture.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, like, you know, not having a great fluency with how that culture reads, or what connotes that sort of culture visually for me, I can still just say, before I ever knew you, just seeing the work you've done on past labels for us, be that Early Birds, down from my day ones, I know there's been a number of them, Project Azorian, it read, you know, whether I knew enough to read specifically Mexican or more generally Hispanic or Latino, for me, it did read that way. Is that something is important to include in your art, or is that just a matter of course and something that naturally comes through in anything you're going to create?
I think it just naturally comes through. And it's funny because I had someone, even I think for Early Birds, someone tell me that they saw the Mexican flag there. It looked like the eagle coming down to get like the snake or something like that. And they were like, I see the Mexican flag. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't even realize I did that. So yeah.
And are there certain design elements or techniques that you think produce that? Or is it just what your eye is attracted to?
I think it's just what my eye is attracted to. Like I'm definitely leaning more towards like bold and graphic colors. I think it's probably just my background too. Like I'm a graphic designer, so I'm definitely always leaning towards bold, heavy, colorful, kind of in your face, but not too much.
Like impactful.
Impactful, exactly. Impactful art style.
Yeah. And is that, so in your day job, you do design like this for a variety of companies, right?
I do a little bit of it. I work for I actually just started a new job yesterday, and it's for a winery. And I think for wine, everything is just like a little bit more toned down and classical looking. So this was definitely kind of like my way to shine when I did like the stuff for HenHouse, because it's like stuff I've always wanted to do. But yeah, it's just like the different personalities when it comes to like beer culture and wine culture, you know? Yeah.
Right. I think there's something to the dynamism too. Like, you know, a winery produces a product once a year, and we're producing, you know, variety weekly. And so if there isn't a ton of, you know, and I liken the beer aisle to a video store these days, right? Like people literally stand back, survey the whole aisle, spin some cans, and figure out what they're going to take home with them. And that's where the work that people like you and Josh do is so critical to success of a company like this. Like it's gotta, like in the case of this project, the Mariachi Maestro project, the art had to do two things, right? It had to not only get people to pick up the beer off the shelf and be attracted to it and kind of understand what we were going for. It also had to convey this reverent message for this man who just recently passed and his legacy, right?
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I don't know, is there a sense of responsibility there, or how does that affect your work when it's connected to, I don't know, something a little more consequential, a little more real in people's lives?
Yeah, I think there was a part from this label that I just like felt like I had to show my best. So I definitely read his story. I think he started like a school in Orange County, and he mostly brought in like teenagers and kids, and taught them how to play, sing and play music. So when I found out that he was also like a pretty well-known celebrity around that area, like I knew I definitely wanted to bring in like the music notes, and I wanted him like to look like almost kind of majestic also, because that's why I put like kind of like the flowers behind him, and kind of like these music notes coming in and out, like kind of making him the focal point, and almost using like the roses like as an aura. That's what it's called, like an aura, or like
aura,
a halo, aura, yeah,
halo, okay.
yeah, halo, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it does have, I think regal is the appropriate word. Like it does have that
Right.
kind of like sense in it. And I do think even like when we were going back in the emails of getting this project off the ground, you'd see him referred to as like Don Zavala, which
Don Zavala,
I think,
right.
it's like a interfamilial term of endearment, but it also obviously has that ring of like, at someone of some heightened level of esteem within the community or within their world.
Yeah, definitely like a really good respect.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little more about your art in general. Are you doing art outside of the sort of world of commerce right now? Like, do you have your own, or not commissioned by a corporation that's trying to use your art to sell a product? Where can people go to see the more free creative Blanca work?
Yeah, so like definitely my Instagram page is where I kind of go into what I want. Like it all kind of started with like a couple of years ago, I started doing like these little animals or cartoons in like the form of Dia de los Muertos. And I started drawing one of them like a day for like a month. So you can find definitely a lot of my art at Instagram. And then
and that's at Blanca.creative?
At Blanca.creative. Yes. Yes.
Say that again?
Blanca.creative.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also do pop-ups here and there where I bring in like the stuff that you would see at Instagram and go and sell. I also like to make pins, earrings, and stickers. And it's just
awesome.
A lot of fun because that's kind of like the stuff I love to do, and people just keep buying it. So I guess I'll just keep going. Yeah.
Always good. And how does this begin with like freehand drawings? Or what's the process?
I'll start freehand, and then I'll just kind of bring it into my iPad. And then I have a printer here at home that prints nice quality images. So I'll print them here, and yeah, that's how it all starts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are you a beer drinker yourself?
Yes, I love beer.
Where's your beer? You're on a HenHouse broadcast right now without a beer in your hand.
Oh yeah, I have to pour it.
All right, well yeah, you're behind me.
Yeah.
That's legit, y'all. That is the sound of a Mariachi Maestro can opening.
Yes.
On the podcast. Have you tasted this beer yet? Oh, she's on brand with the HenHouse logoed glass.
Yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
They're so cute. Yeah, I love this beer. It's like light and refreshing and not as hoppy, but I think that's what makes it easier to drink.
Right. Yeah, no, it turned out great. We're thrilled with it. The recipe was back and forth between, and we should shout out, we're talking a lot about Norwalk BrewHouse and Ray from Norwalk BrewHouse, but SLO Brewing had a hand in this as well. There was a long series of emails bantying about what this beer was going to taste like. But as we know, the story of the project comes from us wanting to work with Norwalk BrewHouse and try to reach out to POC-owned breweries and other companies within our industry and figure out what we could do to help bolster them. And Norwalk's working on getting their own brewery and get that open. And we reached out to them, hoping to just kind of put some money in their pocket and use our platform to make people know who they were. And Ray had no interest in that and wanted to use our platform to help this other piece of his community, which is so laudable and really, really cool. And so then that turned into Lopin and SLO Brewing and kind of figuring out what we could do to make this thing as big as we could. And it's been awesome. I can tell you this beer was released in the tasting room last Friday and wholesale on Tuesday, and we are sold out of it.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, so you can still get cans in our tasting room, but we don't have any more in the distribution warehouse. So, and a bunch of it went down to LA for them to sell down there. So really, really cool that this is going to get out there, and hopefully for people who were aware of Gabriel Zavala and his story, kind of, hopefully give them some feel good. And for those that weren't, shine a light on it. And hopefully, I think it's the Rhythmo Academy. I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, but that was the name of the school. And hopefully that'll be on a little more solid footing between this and other things that are happening to try to fundraise for it. The other thing I want to ask you about, where do you live up? You live very close to the brewery, yes?
Yeah, I live in Santa Rosa. Yeah, close to downtown. Cool.
So one thing that I think we actually did discuss this with you, and it's like, I don't know, a little thornier, but we are like, most of the leadership of this company is very white, and don't want to hide from that fact, but do also really want to make sure that we're engaging, not just simply saying like, oh, everybody's welcome, but trying to do what we can to make everyone feel like that we're responsive to their stuff, and the stuff that they think's funny and cool and interesting is going to end up in our branding, and make everybody be able to sort of see themselves in our beer and in our brand. What is your, do you have any big, strong feelings on when, do you look at it as pandering? Do you look at it as, I don't know, I'm having trouble articulating the question in the way that I want to, but when a brand tries to do something like this, there is a mariachi figure on this label. There's, all sorts of incorporations of those images that we talked about in the beginning that I think ring Hispanic, Latino, Mexican to the consumer. Do you feel like there's any sort of, are we crossing any proprietary lines there? Or what would you say to a company like HenHouse or another company that wants to do something that we feel is entirely in tribute and in good taste, but is not necessarily the culture we have the most natural access to?
Well, I think you in a way you do have access to it, because you're your location is in Roseland, which is the heart,
Absolutely.
The strong cultural area. So I think for me, I think it would be okay, because just based on your location, and I know a lot of people in our community love your beer. But I think you still will get those others that will kind of retaliate. Because because especially in Roseland, I think there is a lot of I don't know how to say it. They're very passionate about our culture, and they could in a way be oh, well, why would they just take our culture and just put it on their cans,
Right.
So I mean, it's a very tricky question. Like I love HenHouse, so, and I think I'm definitely more like biased. Yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky territory to be in. But I think since you're all like in Roseland, I think it's safe, relatively safe. But you'll probably still get.
Right. I mean, ultimately, like our safety is not my concern, right? Like it's much more like making sure that what we do is respectful. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think, yeah, because if it was just like, oh, anything that we do could be taken as appropriative or like, you know, us overstepping, then you never do even the basic things to engage people who want access to your brand, right? Like you said, we're in Roseland, and it's in our interest to have the entire local surrounding community, you know, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of language, whatever, feel comfortable in our space. And we sort of have a responsibility to make it a place where everybody feels comfortable, right? Like, otherwise we're almost just like invading, and like claiming space for ourselves and people like us, and not making it a space that is, you know, truly like a part of the community in a way, right?
Right.
At least that's how I feel about it. But I do know that there's a lot of apprehension around using images like this for fear of how it will be received. But I think that that's something that like companies with a lot of access and a lot of privilege need to push through and figure out like how to engage, you know, in this case, the Hispanic community in a respectful way, right? And I hope that's how this stuff gets received. It'll be it'll be interesting to see.
It will be super neat, because then they'll be like, oh, they know, like they're seeing that we're all part of this community too, you know. Like I think it'll be like a positive thing for sure.
Yeah. Let's hope so. Seems like it. People seem to be responding well to the beer. Yeah. So we talked about your Instagram page. Is there any other events or anything else coming up where people can access you and your work?
Actually, yeah. Pretty soon. Well, we're still thinking like it might be September, October. I'm not sure if you know MJ and Josh. They're like muralists here in Santa Rosa. They're throwing like a mural festival pretty soon. The date is still to be determined. But I'll be a part of it too. I'll be creating a mural there. They're going to be like, I think 7 other muralists, and it's going to be this, it's still being like organized, but yeah, that's another thing that's coming up.
Have you done murals? Sorry to interrupt. Have you done murals before?
No, this will be my first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's somewhere within Santa Rosa? Can you say location yet?
Yeah, it'll be like, I think on the strip of like Sebastopol Road.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely let us know when that is, and we'll send it out on our platform so people can come check that out. Is the idea for people to come watch you paint live, or is there going to be like a reveal?
I think it's going to be more like a reveal at the end, where people are going to come, and it'll probably be food, music, and just kind of like a festival event thing. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Do they need beer?
Yeah, we'll probably need beer.
All right, let's make it happen. Well, very cool. Blanca, I really appreciate this. We've loved working with you. I'm trying to run down the entire list of labels. I think I got pretty close to it. You did Project Azorian with us in Seismic. You did Down for My Day Ones with us, Eagle Rock and Pacifica.
Right.
Early Birds with us and Drake's, which is still one of my favorite HenHouse labels ever. That one is just got a lot of humor to it. I really dig it. And now Mariachi Maestro with Slow Brewing, Norwalk BrewHouse, and HenHouse. Have I missed any of them?
There's Britpop.
Oh, you did Britpop. I forgot about that. Yes. Another collaboration between us and Drake's. Yes. I remember, I for some reason I'd forgotten that was you, but now I remember, because I think initially there was like floral ornaments on Britpop, and we came back and we're like, no, those should be the spices that are in the beer. And so we were turning flowers into cardamom pods and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's that's another one. Like you've got a pretty good list of beers too. I don't know what that causality is, but like the labels you work on end up having very cool liquid inside as well.
Awesome.
Cool. Fantastic. Is there anything else you want to make sure we cover on the HenHouse Unruffled podcast with Blanca Molina?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for making the time, and thank you for all the beautiful work you put on our beer cans.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Cheers.
Cheers.